For today's activity, we're going to use Google Drawings to recreate the landscape picture. Make sure that you read carefully through step 6 to see what all of the requirements are. I think it's easiest if we start with the sky and the river. And I think the easiest way to do the sky is to go to your shape tools, grab a rectangle, and draw a rectangle over the top half of the page. Use a fill color that closely resembles the fill color or the sky color in the picture. I like to go in and make the border color transparent. And then usually what I'll do is I'll go duplicate the rectangle that I just created. I'll move it down here to the bottom of the screen. And then I will take the fill color for this and make it the color of the river. Now at this point, the sky and the river don't really look like the sky and the river, but when we start using layers and put the mountains in front of the sky and the river will almost magically appear. So I'm going to come up here to my curve line tool. I'm going to grab that, and then, actually I messed up there, let me grab that tool again, and I'm just going to recreate the mountains. I'm going to start with the mountain on the left. Now I don't want to start near the edge of the page because when I'm using my curve line tool, I need to make sure I start and stop in the same point or at the same spot. And if I do it too close to the edge, it's kind of hard to find that point. So I like to start up here where it's easy to locate my starting point when it's time to stop. So I'm just going to click and drag up around the shapes of the mountains, and this mountain on the left looks like it sort of has two humps, and then it comes down to the side and you kind of have a third hump. And I'm clicking every time I want to change directions. And then I'm sort of coming around the bottom here. The more I click, the more control I will have later in the process. And the tricky part of this assignment is coming up the straight edge of the page. And the more I click, the more little handles that I'll leave behind, which will allow me to go in and edit my mountains later. So I'm going to come up here to the select tool and I'm going to double click. And when I do that, each one of these little purple handles is where I clicked my mouse, and I can go back and fine tune my mountain and sort of straighten things out a little bit. And then I'm just going to come up here to my fill color. I'm going to fill it in green. I'm going to do the same thing for the mountain on the right. So at this point I've drawn both my mountains. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to draw my sun. For your sun, you are not allowed to use the sun shape here. We're going to keep it looking realistic, so I'm just going to use my oval, and I'm going to draw a large oval. I'm going to fill it in with yellow, and then I'm going to click on it with the select tool. I'm going to move it over here a little bit so that it's right between the mountains. Now the sun can't be in front of the mountains. The sun is always going to appear behind the mountains over the horizon. So I need to move the sun to a layer that is behind both of the mountains. So I'm going to do Control or Command down arrow on a Mac. There we go. I'm going to move it over a little bit. And then I also need to create my clouds. Now for my clouds, I actually have shape tools that I can use for that. And if I come down here to shapes and then over here to the clouds, I can just click and drag to create a cloud. Now I need to fill it in white. I don't want gray storm clouds. I want to keep them white and fluffy. So there's one of them. I'm going to move that over. And then I'm just going to duplicate it. And move that one over. And then I may rotate that one a little bit. And I may make it a little bit wider. Maybe not quite that much. And then I'm going to duplicate this first one again. And there we go. I have my 3 clouds. Then I need to use the polyline tool to create 6 identical trees. I'm going to do that over here in the sort of the blank white area. That way if I mess up on my trees, I'm not going to mess up my entire drawing. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to grab the polyline tool, and I'm just going to draw a series of triangles. And there's one. I'm going to go ahead and fill it in with, I'm going to go with dark green 2. I'm going to take the outline off by making the outline transparent. And then I'm just going to duplicate this and make it a little bit smaller as I go up. And then I will duplicate that part. And I will make that a little bit smaller as I go up. Now I know the trees in the landscape drawing don't actually have a trunk on the bottom, but I'm actually going to go ahead and add a trunk. So I'm going to grab that polyline tool again, and I'm just going to, oops, there we go. And I'm just going to draw a trunk to put on the bottom. I'm going to fill that in with what I consider brown, but what Google calls dark orange 3. I'm going to drag it over here, and my trunk is in front of my tree, so I need to move it to a layer behind my tree. There we go. And then I'm just going to click and drag around my tree, and I'm going to group it. I'm going to go up to Arrange Group, and there I have a perfect tree. Now I need 6 total trees, so I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate that tree 5 times. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then I just need to drag my trees over here. I'm going to put 2 on this mountain, and I'm going to put 4 over on this mountain. And then the final step, I have to use the scribble tool to sign my name in the lower right hand corner. So I'm going to come back up here to the line tool. I'm going to grab the scribble line tool, and then I'm actually going to do it over here on the left side. I'll group it and then I'll drag it across. And I think using the scribble line tool is the hardest of all the tools to use. Then I'm going to come up here to the select tool. I'm going to click and drag around my entire name, and I am going to group it. So Arrange Group. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. I feel like I made my signature a little too big. And then I'm just going to drag it over here to the lower right corner, and I'm ready to turn in my Google drawing.